Thank you for speaking with me today, Professor Nakano. First of all, I want to ask you, what is this National Sovereignty Day? Could you please tell me a little bit about this?
Well, it's actually something quite new. I don't think we've ever had a celebration of a day like that. And it reflects Abe's desire to highlight the regaining of sovereignty after the Second World War, presumably, in a national ceremony with great fanfare.
Is this a politically motivated move by Abe?
Yes, I think the background of it is that there was a day of Takeshima Dokto, as in the disputed territory between Korea and Japan. And Shimane Prefecture, that makes the claim to the island, had a ceremony, and Abe really wanted to take part or have the cabinet level ministers take part in that, but he had to abandon that idea by only having a junior member of the cabinet going into that. And in a way, I think he's trying to make up to the right wing of his party by having this sort of ceremony. And I think a focus on sovereignty and the regaining of sovereignty is also deliberate in that it's supposed to serve as a prelude to the revision of the constitution that is sort of targeted for after the upper house election. The claim made by the right-wingers, including Abe, is that the constitution that we have now has been imposed upon by the Americans, and therefore a full regaining of sovereignty can only be accomplished by revising that particular constitution and having our own, according to them.
Has the move to create a National Sovereignty Day ever been discussed before?
Not that I know of. I think it's a brand new idea, and I don't know whether it's been really thought through, even within the LDP. I think most of the Japanese people don't really know what's going on.
Will this have an effect on Japan's diplomacy with its neighbors, in addition to the recent visits to Yasukuni Shrine by 168 lawmakers?
I think much will depend on what kind of speech Abe makes at the ceremony. The emperor is supposedly going to be present, and there's been some debate within Japan whether that was a right move, given that it looks like it's a political use of the emperor by the prime minister. But I think, unless something really jarring is going to be pronounced at the speeches, there may not be all that much in the waiting for that particular ceremony.
How much political support did Abe have in making this day?
I think most Japanese are not really all that aware of the ceremony or the significance of it or what it's supposed to mean, given that it's something that's never really been heard of and that it's not really been publicized all that much to date. There's a strong opposition, in fact, in Okinawa Prefecture to this day and to this ceremony, given that when the sovereignty was supposedly returned to Japan, Okinawa was still controlled by the United States and was to be controlled by the United States for until the early 1970s. So Okinawans look at that as an insult, and it's a particularly unpopular idea there. But for the rest of Japan, I think people are relatively indifferent to what's going on.
How do the other political parties feel about having a National Sovereignty Day?
The right-wing parties, for example, Japan Restoration Party, is probably not opposed to this idea. Perhaps they would rather want to have more of this kind. The main opposition party, the Democratic Party of Japan, wasn't quite sure what stance to take. So at least at this point, its leader, Mr. Kaieda, is supposed to take part in the ceremony, perhaps not particularly enjoying his position of having to attend one, nevertheless.
Japan seems to be undergoing a political shift to the right. Does this have anything to do with the current generation in power?
Yes, I think the shift to the right of Japanese politics is very much an elite-driven process. It's not so much that the whole society is turning rightward as we speak, but it's more to do with political elites. Many of them, of course, in the ruling LDP, but also in offshoots of the LDP, like the Japan Restoration Party, escalating the rhetoric of nationalism in the recent years, if not decades, that has to a degree to do with younger generation of leaders like Abe who were born in the post-war period. In terms of who's really pulling the strings or who's really propelling the process, it's more of a elite-driven process. It's not as if the politicians are reacting to the public mood that is shifting to the right in the first place and changing the parameters of politics, but it's really rather the other way around. Politicians have self-interested reasons to resort to nationalist rhetoric, blame the foreigners for what goes wrong in a globalized economy today, and I think that's been a fairly facile scapegoat for the political leaders, and I think the society is divided. I think some of the citizens react to that very negatively, while others may buy into the nationalist propaganda that is, that they receive.
Does this mean that there is an alienation between the public and the government?
Well, I think the actual significance of this day and this ceremony is hard to gauge at this point because it's really not been something we have known in the past. It does, of course, exhibit Abe's desire to engage in constitutional revision and also to enforce territorial claims, particularly in regard to Takeshima Dokdo. Perhaps in this case, given that Takeshima Dokdo is under Korean control. But this is part of the package in its own. It may or may not do all that much at the end of the day, but it is something that the government is doing other than the talks about Abenomics, I think, to placate largely to its right wing within the party.
The upper house elections are coming up this summer. Will the move to create a National Sovereignty Day have any effect upon the result of these elections?
I think in terms of public reaction to something like this is probably going to be fairly evenly split. And so Abe may gain few votes, but he may also lose few votes. But rather the point is perhaps that by putting something like this on the agenda, he's actually putting the main opposition party, the Democratic Party of Japan, and its leader Kaiyeda in an awkward position because the party is sort of divided internally whether it wants to help Abe government pursue a more nationalist course of policies or whether it wants to put a brake on that. And so by dividing opposition in a way, he's obtaining his goal, because elections are often not won but lost by others, and the loss of your enemy is enough to deliver you the victory that you need.